Welcome to Resilience Media. I'm John Biggs. Today we have Denys Gurak. He's a Chief Operating Officer and Chief Investment Officer of MITS Capital in Kyiv, Ukraine. Welcome, Denys.
Thank you for having me.
So I think the best thing to do is to familiarize folks with what you guys are working on. You're obviously in the heart of it right now, working in drone technology in Ukraine. And I just wanted to see what MITS Capital was doing, what you're looking for in terms of investments, and essentially how the world of VC is holding up under the strain.
Yeah, that's great. Happy to do it.
So tell me a little bit about what you guys are investing in.
So our primary thesis is that Ukraine is an opportunity for the West in defense, overall in defense industry specifically. In defense, it's because we have now the largest army, all European armies and Turkey combined, still smaller than Ukrainian army. No one else is trained in drone warfare. And we are witnessing how the Third World War is unfolding, literally. So that's just on a strategic level. But on the industry level, Ukraine has been the center of innovations, an R&D center and components manufacturer for the Soviet Union. So in 1991, Ukraine had 1 million people working in aerospace and defense with 700 factories. Obviously, a lot of that does not remain in place, but the reason why we see all this drone warfare instigated by Ukraine happened is specifically because of these historical roots. So Ukraine is a low-cost manufacturing base in defense specifically, and there's just no other country in the Western world that can help replace China in the supply chain of weapon systems of NATO. And it just so happened that China was working on infiltrating supply chains of Western armaments for the last 30 plus years and has successfully done this even for things like Patriots, nuclear submarines in the US. There's public data about that. Well, US is quite pushing to get rid of this dependency, EU as well. However, God knows how much time it will take them to do this on their own. So not only the low-cost manufacturing base is what we have, but also critical minerals to do just that. So you've probably heard, the whole Trump's administration push, to do the critical minerals deal with Ukraine. That's specifically because of the reasons that I just mentioned. We believe that Ukraine's presence in NATO and Ukrainian presence within the Western defense industry, integration of Ukrainian defense industry will help the West at least to hold the line. Because Russia and China don't have a reason to stop. They have the best momentum to keep pushing. I don't want to go too much into that, but here goes our investment thesis. We're investing into the components of drone warfare to get rid of Chinese dependency in the supply chain of Ukraine and of Western countries. And we have 11 portfolio companies, mostly in that. So when I say components of drone warfare, it could be just specific components like cameras, motors, communication systems, software, but also platforms that would be able to integrate those components on board. So on air, land, and sea.
So you said you had 700 basically aerospace manufacturers.
35 years ago.
Yeah. 35 years ago. I mean, this was Cold War. This would have been just at the cusp of the Soviet bloc. So you have a massive amount of talent. How much of the supply chain can you actually replace? Is it chip fabs? Is it circuit boards? Is it avionics? What can Ukraine produce that the rest of Europe will eventually need?
Well, chips and avionics is what are the hardest things to replicate. We didn't produce them much, but we do see these things emerging in the last couple of years, even not in the last couple of years because the war started in 2014. So yeah, basically it could be anything, frankly. It's just a matter of, resource and execution. Just one other thing. So if we're talking about legacy weapon systems of NATO, the data is such that there's like 10 to 50% dependency depending on the system on China. But even 10 is critical. One of the reasons why US wasn't able to supply Ukraine enough Patriots is specifically because of this. But if we're talking about drones, it's 90% for the West. For Ukraine and drones, I'd say it's it's getting smaller and smaller for Ukrainian drones because literally every company is working to get rid of Chinese components in their supply chain in Ukraine. We know, our portfolio companies are targeting to hit that milestone somewhere within like next half a year or a year. And for West, it's going to be much, much longer.
How do you manage due diligence? I mean, just basically talking to the startups in a country that's you're maybe some of those places. I can't imagine that they're out in the east, but I can only imagine some of the cities might be difficult to get to or difficult to contact, etc. How do you manage that diligence, and how do you make sure that this company that's producing this part is worth investing in?
We have quite a robust process. We actually think it's our core differentiator from a classic VCs. So we're not a classic VC in that sense. We're an investment group. So a venture fund is one of 4 of our business lines. So other 3 are an incubator, which we call MITS Lab. Then goes accelerator. So incubator, MITS Lab works with companies at TRL 1 to 3, a technology readiness level. Then accelerator is 4 to 6. Then the venture fund, which is 7 to 9. And then we also have advisory investment banking service for more robust companies. But coming back to due diligence, well, we have expertise to basically evaluate them from multiple angles. And accelerator is actually the process how we do it. So we run it in partnership with American University Kyiv, which is powered by Arizona State University. And we have a really tight hands-on approach of working with startups. So we work with them for 6 months, literally on a day-to-day basis. We help them build a company because usually components are just a product. Even drone is a product and company is totally 2 different things. So because of experience and expertise, we think we can do it pretty well up to, to the Western standard. And I'd say it's more stringent due diligence than VCs would do. So I'd say it's more like a private equity type due diligence.
In terms of the startups coming out, where do you source most of your startups from? Are they PhD students? Are they just folks who want to help out? Maybe hobbyists?
Well, there's a government platform, which is the first level that sources startups. It's called Brave One. They do initial grants for engineers to get to the MVP stage, and we usually source from there. But also, there's multiple other ways to do it, mostly through combat brigades and commands in Ukraine, because Ukrainian defense startup they are always on the front line. If they're not on the front line, they're just nowhere. So sourcing is definitely not a problem.
Tell me a story about a startup that went from 0 to 100 under your guidance.
We don't disclose all our deals, frankly.
Sure. You can just describe
some of them.
Somebody general.
And it's not a VC reason not to disclose. Obviously, it's more security reason. But the deal that we've done recently and announced is a unmanned ground vehicles company, UGV company. So UGVs have been around, probably for a decade or so, but they haven't been scaled. Same case for just flying, aerial drones. So there's a Ukrainian company which has been established just in 24, and they got into our accelerator, and we've invested quite a large check by Ukrainian account, which is almost $4 million eventually after the graduation from the accelerator. And by now they manufactured a lot of UGVs. I can say that, probably cannot claim it for 100%, but most likely they are the company that manufactured most of UGVs, more UGVs than all other Western companies combined in just a year. It wasn't not only because of us, but this is just a prime case of what Ukrainian engineers and entrepreneurs can do. They're great at scaling. And the key for success in Ukraine, as probably anywhere else, is getting fast feedback from the front line, implementing it, and ability to scale manufacturing. Because getting to a product is 10% of success in any startup, in defense especially. So scaled manufacturing is the biggest problem that actually Ukraine now faces. So we're kind of our main goal is to help startups scale as fast as possible.
What do you need from Europe and the U.S.?
Institutional capital in Ukrainian defense industry, because the overall amount of capital by Western standards is just doesn't exist. Overall, probably like $100 million has been invested in the last year. We need hundreds of millions actually, and we can maximize the efficiency of those millions. I think well as a country. So we're actively working on getting institutional capital into Ukraine. Not only us. So I think it's going to happen pretty soon, because Europe and the US has realized, the potential of the industry in Ukraine.
Very cool. Well, Denys, thank you for joining us. This has been fascinating.
Thank you, John.
All right, and stay safe out there.
Thank you.